when a scammer called pretending to be from my bank, his voice dripping with fake urgency. I played the part of a confused old man perfectly. I let him think he was in control, that he had found another easy target. What he did not know was that my own grandson had fed him my private information, and I was about to use my 40 years of experience in cybersecurity to dismantle their entire operation from the quiet of my basement office. He thought he was baiting a fish, but he had just hooked a shark who knew exactly how to reverse the line and pull him under. Before I get into the details of my plan, please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments if you or someone you know has ever dealt with a phone scammer. My name is Arthur Vance, and I am 72 years old. I live in a quiet suburb of Raleigh, North Carolina, a city I moved to after retiring from a long career up north. Most people in my neighborhood know me as the quiet widower who grows prize-winning tomatoes. They do not know that for 4 decades, I worked for a private firm that designed secure financial networks for some of the biggest banks in the world. I spent my life thinking like a thief in order to build digital walls they could never breach. Since my wife, Martha, passed, my life has been a simple routine of gardening, reading, and spending time with my only grandson, Leo. Leo is 24, a sharp kid who is good with computers, but has always had a problem with ambition, outpacing his work ethic. He was in and out of jobs, always chasing a get-rich-quick scheme. I loved him, but I worried about him. He was my only real family left, the son of my daughter, who had moved across the country. Over the past year, his visits had become more frequent, but they felt different. Our conversations often drifted toward my finances. "Grandpa, you must have a nice little nest egg saved up," he would say casually while scrolling on his phone. "You have to be careful with all these online scams targeting seniors." At first, I thought it was genuine concern. I would assure him that I knew how to protect myself. But the questions became more specific. He would ask about which bank I used, whether I had moved my old investment portfolio after Martha died, things a grandson has no real reason to know. A subtle unease began to creep in. It was a feeling I recognized from my old job, the sense of a system being probed for weaknesses. I noticed other small things. He would compliment my new computer, then ask what kind of security software I was running. He once borrowed my laptop to check his email and was on it for nearly 30 minutes. I did not think much of it at the time, but the memory lingered. The first hint of the actual betrayal came not through me, but through my best friend and neighbor, Charles. Charles was a retired history professor, a brilliant man who was not as comfortable with technology as I was. One afternoon, he came over to my house, his face pale and his hands shaking. He had lost $5,000. The story was sickeningly familiar. A man called claiming to be from a major tech support company, telling him his computer was infected with a virus. They guided him through a series of steps, convinced him to install some remote access software, and then showed him a fake screen from his bank, claiming a refund had been accidentally sent for $5,000 too much. They bullied him into sending the extra money back to them via a wire transfer. He was humiliated, not just by the loss of the money, but by the feeling of being made a fool. I spent the next few days helping him secure his accounts and wipe his computer, my heart burning with a cold fury for the people who prey on good men like him. A few days later, Leo stopped by. I told him what had happened to Charles. His reaction was strange. There was no real sympathy in his eyes, only a kind of detached clinical interest. "Wow, that is crazy," he said. "So they just called him up? How did they get him to send the money?" He asked question after question, not about Charles's well-being, but about the technical details of the scam. That was the moment a dreadful suspicion began to form in my mind. It was a dark, ugly thought, but it was logical. The timing, the specific nature of his questions, it all felt like reconnaissance. He was not just curious, he was gathering intelligence. I knew then that I had to be ready. I did not have to wait long. The phone rang 1 week later. The caller ID was spoofed to look like my bank's official number. A man with a smooth, professional voice introduced himself as Steve from the fraud department. He told me there had been suspicious activity on my account, a large purchase made in another state. He was here to help me secure my funds. I took a deep breath, looked at the picture of my late wife on the mantelpiece, and made my voice tremble just a little. "Oh my," I said. "What do I do?" The game had begun. I held the phone to my ear, my knuckles white, and listened as Steve from the fraud department explained the situation with practiced patience. He told me the supposed fraudulent charge was for $2,100, and that to reverse it, I needed to log into my online banking portal so he could guide me through the security process. His script was smooth, designed to build panic and then offer a calming, authoritative solution. I played my part, peppering him with questions a confused senior might ask. My computer? Oh dear, it takes a while to start up. Which button do I press again? Each delay was deliberate, buying me time while I moved from the comfortable armchair in my living room down to my real base of operations in the basement. My basement office was a different world. It was the one room Martha had let me design myself. A climate-controlled space with multiple monitors, servers humming quietly in a rack, and network cables neatly organized. It was my digital fortress. While I kept Steve on the line with my feigned incompetence, I booted up not my personal computer, but a dedicated machine running a virtual sandbox. This was a contained digital environment, completely isolated from my actual network and my real financial information. Anything a scammer did inside this sandbox was like writing on a whiteboard that I could erase with a single click. They would think they were inside my system, but they would only be seeing a digital playpen I had built for them. "Okay, I think I have the website up," I said into the phone, my voice quavering slightly. "It is asking for my username." I gave him the login credentials to a dummy bank account I had created years ago for just this kind of security testing. It was preloaded with a few $100s, enough to look real. The scammer, feeling he was making progress, became more confident. "Excellent, Arthur. Now, to secure your connection, I need you to install a small security program. I will give you the website address." I knew exactly what was coming. He was going to have me install remote access software like AnyDesk or TeamViewer, giving him complete control of the machine. On my main monitor, I initiated a packet sniffer and a network tracer, tools that would analyze all the data flowing between the virtual machine and the scammer's location. I wanted to know where he was, what software he was using, and who he was connected to. The scammer directed me to a website, and I downloaded his security program. As the remote connection was established, a second cursor appeared on the virtual machine screen, moving erratically. He was in. "Okay, Arthur, I have control now," the scammer said soothingly. "Just sit back and let me handle everything." I leaned back in my chair, watching him navigate the fake banking portal. My suspicion about Leo was a heavy weight in my chest, a cold certainty that needed one final piece of proof. I had laid a trap for him. A few weeks ago, during one of his probing conversations, Leo had asked me about my old security questions. I had given him a fake answer for one of them. I told him my first pet's name was Buddy. My first dog's name was actually Max, a detail my real bank had on file. The scammer, working quickly, brought up a fake security page that showed a refund being processed. As I expected, he accidentally added 2 extra zeros, making the refund $20,000 instead of $2,000. This was the core of the scam, the part that had tricked Charles. He would claim the bank had made a mistake in my favor, and then pressure me to send that extra $19,000 back to them. To verify the transaction, he navigated to a fake profile page. "Arthur, I just need to confirm your identity. Your security question is your first pet's name. I see it on file here starting with a B. He was waiting for me to confirm. Instead, I feigned confusion. A B? Oh my, I do not think that is right. The scammer paused, a flicker of irritation in his voice. Sir, our records show the name is Buddy. And there it was. The final, damning piece of evidence. That specific, incorrect piece of information had only ever been given to one person, my grandson Leo. A profound, hollow sadness washed over me. It was not anger, not yet. It was the deep, structural grief of a foundation cracking. Leo had not just been careless with my information. He was an active participant. He had sold me out. I called my old colleague, David Chun, a man I had worked with for 30 years, who was even more of a cynic about human nature than I was. I put him on mute and quickly explained the situation. It is Leo, I said, my voice flat. He fed them the data. David was silent for a moment. Arthur, are you sure? He gave them the key to a lock I built just for him, I replied. Looking at a photo on my desk of my daughter holding a baby Leo, I felt the full force of the betrayal. He was not just a scammer. He was a grave robber, stealing from the memory of a family who loved him. The sadness began to harden into something else. It was the cold, clear focus of a professional with a job to do. Okay, Steve, I said into the phone, letting a note of relief enter my voice. You are right. It is Buddy. I am so forgetful these days. The game was no longer about defending myself. It was now about hunting them. With the word Buddy hanging in the air, the cold certainty of the betrayal washed over me. It was not a sudden, sharp pain, but a slow, crushing weight, as if the floor of my world had just given way. My grandson, my only grandson, had packaged my life and sold it to predators. While my mind was reeling with this devastating new reality, the scammer on the phone, Steve, was moving on to the next phase of his script. On the screen of the virtual machine, he manipulated the fake bank website, and a large, green number appeared, $20,000, next to the words, refund processed. The scammer's voice took on a new tone of manufactured urgency. Arthur, are you seeing this? It seems there has been a major error. Our system accidentally refunded you $20,000 instead of the $2,100. This is a serious problem. He paused, letting the fake gravity of the situation sink in. If we do not correct this immediately, the bank will have to freeze all your assets pending a federal investigation that could take months. This was the core of his attack, a combination of a false windfall and a terrifying threat, designed to short-circuit an elderly person's logic and push them into a state of panicked compliance. He wanted me to feel a rush of undeserved gain, followed by the terror of losing everything. The immediate consequence of Leo's betrayal was this. I had to navigate a minefield of emotional manipulation while my heart was breaking. Oh my goodness, I said, my voice hoarse, though the emotion was now very real. An investigation? What do I have to do? Just as the scammer began to explain the wire transfer process he needed me to follow, the doorbell rang upstairs. The sound was jarring. Steve grew agitated. Arthur, do not answer that. We are in the middle of a secure transaction. You cannot have any interruptions. But I knew, with a sinking feeling, who it would be. It is my grandson, I said, a statement that was both an excuse and an accusation he could not understand. I have to get the door. I put the phone down, leaving the line open, and walked heavily up the basement stairs. Peeking through the blinds, I saw Leo standing on my porch, shifting his weight impatiently, his phone in his hand. He was here to check on the progress, to make sure the hook had been set properly. The betrayal was not remote. It was standing on my doorstep. I opened the door, schooling my features into a look of flustered worry. Leo, what a surprise, I said. He gave me a concerned smile that looked hideous to me now. Hey, Grandpa. I was just in the neighborhood. Is everything okay? You look pale. He was a good actor. He knew exactly what was happening, and he was here to play his part as the caring grandson. "It is the bank," I said, waving a hand vaguely. "There has been some fraud on my account. I am on the phone with them now, trying to fix it." A flicker of something, a greedy, anxious light, appeared in his eyes for a fraction of a second before he masked it with more concern. "Fraud? Oh, that is terrible. Are you sure you are talking to the real bank? Let me help." He made a move to come inside, to get closer to the operation, to ensure his cut. "No, no," I said, blocking his way gently. "They are being very helpful. A man named Steve, but it is all very confusing." Back in the basement, I picked up the phone. Leo had followed me downstairs and stood a few feet away, feigning a supportive presence. "Steve," I said, "I am back. My grandson is here now. He is very worried." I could hear the scammer's frustration through the line. "Arthur, this is a private financial matter. You should not have anyone else there." "Well, he is here now," I said, putting the phone on speaker so Leo could hear. "Steve, you were saying I need to send the extra money back? My grandson says I should not do a wire transfer over the phone. He says we should go to the bank together tomorrow morning to handle it in person." The scammer erupted. "No, that is not possible. The transfer must be done now. The investigation will start at the end of the business day." He was losing control, his professional tone dissolving into that of a crude bully. I looked at Leo. He was caught. He could not argue against his own sensible advice without revealing his role. He shot me a look of pure panic, a silent plea for me to follow the scammer's instructions. He was not worried about me losing money. He was worried about him losing his payday. "I think my grandson is right," I said into the phone, my voice firm for the first time. "I will not be doing anything until I speak to a manager in person tomorrow." The scammer unleashed a string of threats before hanging up abruptly. The line went dead. The room was silent. I turned to Leo. "Well," I said, forcing a weary smile. "Thank you, son. You really saved me there. Good thing you showed up when you did." He swallowed hard, the color draining from his face. "Yeah, Grandpa," he mumbled. "Good thing." He made a hasty excuse and left a few minutes later. The image of his panicked eyes burned into my memory. Alone in my basement, the performance ended. The full, unveiled truth of the betrayal settled in. He had not just sold my data. He had come to my home to watch me be fleeced, ready to push me along if I hesitated. The immediate consequence was the loss of the boy I thought I knew, the death of a love I thought was real. Staring at the network traces on my screen, the digital fingerprints of the criminals my grandson called his partners, the grief finally burned away, leaving only the cold, hard clarity of a problem that needed to be solved. They had tried to rob a confused old man. They were about to learn that they had declared war on a cybersecurity expert who now had nothing left to lose. After Leo fled my house, the crushing weight of the betrayal settled into a cold, hard resolve. The emotional storm had passed, leaving behind the quiet, methodical calm of a professional with a mission. My grandson had made a choice, and in doing so, he had made my decision for me. I would not just protect myself. I would go on the offensive. I would dismantle their entire operation, not for revenge, but for the countless other people like Charles, who did not have my skills to fight back. My first conscious decision was to not confront Leo directly. He was a symptom of the disease, a pawn, not the king. Exposing him now would only send the real criminal scurrying into the digital darkness. He was my unwitting key into their network, and I needed him to believe I was still the clueless old man he had targeted. I sat down at my workstation, the monitors casting a cool glow in the dark basement. The data I had captured during the scam call was my starting point. The packet sniffer had logged the IP address of the scammer's remote connection. It was, as I suspected, routed through a series of proxy servers designed to hide their true location. Peeling back those layers would be like unwrapping a digital onion, but it was a process I had performed thousands of times in my career. While the trace programs ran in the background, algorithmically searching for a weakness in their proxy chain, I began the next phase of my plan, a classic piece of social engineering. I needed to re-engage them, but on my terms. I sent a text message to Leo. "Hi, son. That bank situation was so scary yesterday. I am so glad you were here. I went to the bank this morning, and they confirmed everything the man on the phone said. They said I was very lucky the fraud department caught it. The branch manager helped me send the extra money back to the right account. It is all sorted out now. Thank you again for your good advice." It was a carefully crafted lie. Every word was designed to be relayed back to his criminal partners. It told them that I was still gullible, that I trusted the process, and most importantly, that I had access to a significant amount of money and was willing to move it. It was bait, pure and simple, and I was sure they would take it. While waiting for their next move, I prepared my hunting ground. I established several new virtual machines, each one configured to look like the computer of a vulnerable senior. I created multiple fake online banking portals for different banks, each one a sophisticated trap. From the outside, they looked real, but they were actually honeypots, designed to lure the scammers in and log their every keystroke, capture their passwords, and download any software they tried to use. This was the first stage of my plot, testing their infrastructure and my ability to manipulate them. By late afternoon, one of the trace programs pinged with a success. It had found a flaw in their network configuration, a single weak link in their proxy chain that allowed me to identify a server located in a data center in Miami. It was not their home base, but it was a start. It was a physical location I could give to the authorities when the time was right. The real breakthrough came the next morning. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" I answered, my voice back in its feeble old man character. "Arthur Vance?" a new voice asked. It was a woman this time, her tone dripping with sympathy. "My name is Sarah, and I am a senior account manager with the bank's fraud prevention unit. I am calling to follow up on the incident from the other day. I just want to commend you for acting so quickly to return those funds. It is rare we see such honesty." They had taken the bait. Leo had passed on my message, and they were coming back for a second helping. "Oh, thank you, dear," I said. "It was all very stressful." "I understand," she cooed. "And that is why I'm calling. Because you were a victim of a serious fraud attempt, you are eligible for a special government compensation program for seniors. It is a one-time payment of $10,000 to help with any stress or financial hardship." This was a new script, a more sophisticated one. They were no longer trying to take my money through a fake refund. They were now trying to get my information by promising me a fake reward. It was a classic advanced fee scam. "Oh, my word," I said, injecting a note of greed into my voice. $10,000, really?" "Yes, sir," she said. "I just need to verify a few details to process the payment for you." The real game had begun. They thought they were reeling me in, but I was the one pulling the line, drawing them deeper and deeper into the digital fortress I had built in my quiet basement. Before we move on, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel. I was not just a victim anymore. I was the hunter, and the trap was now set. The voice of the scammer, Sarah, was a syrupy mix of condescension and false sympathy. Playing the part of the eager victim, I expressed my profound gratitude for the $10,000 compensation. "Oh, that is wonderful news, dear," I said, letting my voice crack with emotion. "After that scare the other day, this is a true blessing." She responded exactly as I predicted. "I am so glad we can help, Arthur. Now, to deposit the funds, we need to set up a secure government payment portal for you. There is a one-time federal processing fee of $299 to activate the account." This was the hook for the advanced fee fraud. My objective was not to avoid the fee, but to use it as a weapon. While she spoke, I was already analyzing the network data from her call, confirming it originated from the same block of IP addresses as the first scammer, Steve. They were working from a central location. Of course, I said quickly. How do I send it? She directed me to a website, a poorly designed but official-looking page with government logos. I navigated to it inside my virtual sandbox. While I feigned difficulty reading the small print, my software was mapping the site's architecture and scanning for vulnerabilities in the background. It is asking me to enter my credit card information, I said, sounding worried. I am always so nervous about putting that online. It is a fully encrypted federal server, she lied smoothly. It is perfectly safe. Well, I said, pausing for effect. The young man from your bank the other day, Steve, he had me do a wire transfer. It was very efficient. I still have the account information he gave me right here. Could I just send the $299 to that same account? It would make me feel so much safer. There was a moment of silence on her end. I had thrown a wrench into her script. My request was a test. If their operation was sloppy, she would agree, allowing me to link her directly to the previous crime. If they were disciplined, she would refuse. Her hesitation told me everything. They were greedy and overconfident. Yes, she said finally. Yes, that account will work perfectly fine. That will be much faster. Bingo. I had just established a direct connection between two of their fraudulent operations. While she waited, I did not send $299. Instead, I initiated a transfer for $2,990 from my dummy account to the mule account they controlled. I let the transaction confirm, then waited a full minute before letting out a loud theatrical gasp. Oh, heavens! Oh, my dear, I have made a terrible, terrible mistake. I shouted into the phone, injecting pure panic into my voice. What is it, Arthur? What is wrong? She asked, her own voice suddenly sharp with alarm. My finger. It must have slipped on the keyboard. I was supposed to send $299, but I think I sent $2,990. I sent almost $3,000. I was using their own accidental overpayment tactic against them. I could almost feel her shock and confusion through the phone. This was not in her script. I heard her cover the receiver and speak in a hurried, angry-sounding foreign language to someone else in the room. The mask was slipping. She came back on the line, her syrupy tone gone, replaced by a cold, hard edge. Sir, please calm down. Let me check the transaction. While she was checking, I was executing the next part of my plan. The website she had directed me to was, as I suspected, riddled with basic security holes. While she was distracted, I ran a simple script that exploited a vulnerability in their payment form, giving me access to a directory on their server. It was a digital treasure trove. I found log files containing the partial credit card numbers and names of dozens of other victims they had targeted that day. I downloaded everything. Mr. Vance, she said, her voice now dangerously calm. I do see the transaction. It appears you did make an error. Do not worry. We can refund the difference. I will just need to connect to your computer to process the reversal. It was a bold move. She wanted back inside my system to likely install malware or wipe the evidence of their website from my browser history. Of course, I said meekly. I let her connect to the virtual machine again. But this time, the machine was not just a sandbox, it was a trap. The moment her remote access software connected, a piece of software I had written activated. It was designed to look like a normal connection to her, but it was actually a keylogger and a file transfer interrogator. As she typed, I captured her own system's login credentials. As she tried to navigate the fake desktop, I saw the file paths and names of the tools on her own computer. In just 30 seconds of connection, I had her username, the name of her computer, and the software she was using. I had moved from being the target to being inside their network. I had their victim list, access to their server, and the credentials of one of their operators. The plan was not just in motion, it was accelerating. They thought they were dealing with a confused old man's mistake. They had no idea they had just handed me the keys to their entire kingdom. The moment the scammer, Sarah, disconnected, I had everything I needed. The critical moment was not one of confrontation, but of quiet, methodical victory in the solitude of my basement. Staring at the data displayed across my multiple monitors, I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. I had their victim logs, the credentials for one of their operators, and the location of their primary server in Miami. I had turned their own tools against them and mapped their entire digital footprint. The final piece of the puzzle was my grandson. I needed to ensure he was caught in the net with his partners. I called Leo, my voice trembling with expertly feigned panic. "Leo, it has happened again," I cried. Another person from the bank called, a woman named Sarah, about a government payment. I tried to send a small fee, and I accidentally sent them almost $3,000. I do not know what to do. Leo's response was a moment of pure, panicked greed. 3,000? Grandpa, did you send it? Where did you send it? He was not worried about me. He was worried the money had gone astray, that his cut was in jeopardy. To the same account as before, I said. Sarah is going to call me back to help me get the extra money back. She is so nice. No, 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 he said, his voice a frantic whisper. Do not talk to her again, Grandpa. Just wait. Let me handle it. I will call them and get it sorted out for you. It was exactly what I needed. He had just admitted his connection, his ability to contact the criminals directly. I had him. The next morning, I compiled everything into a single encrypted file. It contained the IP logs, the server location, the victim list I had downloaded, the operator's credentials, and a full recording of both scam calls. The most damning piece of evidence was a short, separate audio file of Leo's panicked call, where he offered to contact the scammers on my behalf. My old colleague, David Chun, had a contact at the FBI Cybercrime Division, a seasoned agent named Marcus Thorne. I sent the file to Agent Thorne with a simple, anonymous email, evidence package regarding a large-scale, elder fraud ring operating out of Miami. They are actively targeting seniors. Victim list included. Good luck. I gave him no name and no contact information. The evidence had to speak for itself. For the next 2 weeks, an agonizing silence followed. I went about my routine, tending to my tomatoes, reading my books, and politely deflecting Leo's increasingly anxious calls, asking if I had gotten my money back. Then, one Tuesday morning, the climax arrived not with a bang, but with a news headline on my computer screen. FBI raids Miami call center, busts multi-million-dollar elder fraud ring. The article described a pre-dawn raid on an unassuming office building. Agents had arrested 12 individuals, the people behind the voices of Steve and Sarah and countless others. They had seized computers and servers, shutting down the entire operation. The report detailed how the scammers had been targeting seniors across the country, using sophisticated scripts and stolen personal data to defraud them of their life savings. The FBI spokesperson credited a highly detailed, anonymous tip that had given them the direct location of the servers and a list of recent victims they could use to build their case. The victory was definitive, but it was not complete. The final scene of the play unfolded that evening. My doorbell rang. It was Leo. He looked terrible. His face was ashen, his eyes wide with terror. He was holding his phone, his hand shaking as he showed me the same news article I had been reading all day. "Grandpa," he whispered, his voice cracking. "The police. They came to my apartment. They took my computer. They want to talk to me about this." He looked at me, his eyes pleading, searching for the clueless old man he thought he knew. But that man was gone. I looked at him, my expression unreadable. "Well, Leo," I said, my voice cold and clear, devoid of any feigned frailty. "I imagine they have a lot of questions for you, like how your partners got the name of my first pet, a name I only ever gave to you." The realization dawned on his face, a slow, horrifying wave of understanding. He saw the truth in my eyes. He saw the trap he had walked into. He saw that his doddering old grandfather had been the architect of his ruin all along. He did not say a word. He just stared, his world crumbling around him. He had thought he was the predator, but in the end, he was just another piece of bait, and the trap had snapped shut perfectly. That is how I got my so-sweet revenge. Leo stood on my porch, speechless and broken, as the full weight of his actions and my countermeasures came crashing down on him. The facade of the concerned grandson was gone, replaced by the raw, terrified face of a young man who had just understood the totality of his miscalculation. There were no more lies to tell, no more performances to give. He simply turned without another word and walked away, a solitary figure retreating into the evening shadows, having gambled away his family and his future for a slither of a criminal enterprise. I closed the door, not with a slam of anger, but with a quiet, deliberate click that echoed the finality of the moment. The war was over. The life after my quiet counteroffensive was peaceful and deeply reflective. The news reports in the following weeks filled in the details with a clarity that was both horrifying and satisfying. The evidence I had provided anonymously was the linchpin for the entire federal case. The victim logs allowed the FBI to proactively contact dozens of seniors across 5 different states, some of whom did not even realize they had been scammed, and helped them secure their accounts before more damage could be done. The financial trails from the mule accounts, which I had mapped, led to the recovery of over $2 million. The raid on the Miami office was front-page news for a day, complete with images of agents carrying out computer towers and boxes of documents. The faces of Steve and Sarah and the 10 other operators were shown in a series of unflattering mugshots, revealing them to be not master criminals, but ordinary, greedy people who had chosen a path of cruel parasitism. My grandson, faced with the irrefutable evidence of his role as an inside data broker for the ring, cooperated fully with the prosecution. I learned through a strained phone call with my daughter that he had confessed everything detailing how he had found the scammers on a dark web forum and sold them. Information on his easy target grandfather for a promised percentage of the score. His full cooperation earned him a reduced sentence, a few years in a low-security prison. It was a lenient outcome, but a just one. He was not the monster at the top, just a foolish, greedy boy who had made a catastrophic mistake. I never visited him or spoke to him again. My daughter and I still talk, but the conversations are careful, navigating the vast crater his actions left in our family. Some wounds are too deep to be mended. The family I knew, the one that included him, was gone forever. My real sense of peace came from helping the other victims, starting with my friend. I sat down with Charles in my kitchen a week after the news broke. I poured 2 cups of coffee, and with his permission, I told him the entire story. I showed him the data, the network traces, and explained the honeypot I had created. He listened in stunned silence, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and disbelief. When I finished, he just shook his head slowly. "Arthur," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you did not just get their money. You got my dignity back. The worst part of it was feeling like an old fool. Knowing that you, my friend, turned the tables on them so completely. Well, that is a better feeling than getting the $5,000 back." That conversation sparked an idea. It was not enough to have stopped one group of criminals. The real problem was the vulnerability they exploited. I started a small, informal cybersecurity workshop at our local senior center. Twice a month, I connect my laptop to a projector and stand before a group of my peers. I teach them the basics of online safety, I show them how to spot phishing emails, how to create and manage strong passwords, and most importantly, how to recognize the psychological tricks of urgency and fear that scammers use. I turn my decades of professional experience into simple, practical lessons, using analogies about locking doors and checking who is on the other side before you open them. During one session, a woman named Eleanor shared that she had almost sent $500 to a man claiming to be her grandson who was supposedly in jail. Because of what she had learned in our class, she hung up and called her daughter directly, confirming it was a scam. That small victory, that one person I had empowered to protect herself, felt more significant than the entire FBI raid. It has given me a new sense of purpose, a way to build something positive from the wreckage of my family. I still tend to my tomatoes. I still read my books. But something has shifted. The fight I waged from my basement was not just about bringing criminals to justice. It was about reclaiming my own sense of control. It was about proving to myself that my age had not made me a victim. It had made me a more patient, more methodical, and far more dangerous opponent. The revenge was not in the headlines or the arrests. It was in the quiet confidence of the men and women at the senior center, who now know how to hang up on a scammer without a second thought. It was in knowing that a network of predators was dismantled because they made the fatal mistake of targeting the wrong old man. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment telling me what part of the story you liked most.